The United Nations has urged 9 countries, including the United States and Germany, to reverse their funding suspension to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency in Gaza. And this follows Israel's allegations that some of the agency's staff were involved in the Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October last year. Now, on Friday, the International Court of Justice delivered an interim ruling on provisional measures taken against Israel and Hamas, including that Israel must take action to prevent further acts that could possibly lead to genocide as it wages war against the Hamas group in the Gaza Strip. The court also called for the immediate and unconditional release of hostages taken by Hamas after the group attacked Israel. So to talk to us more about these latest developments, also what the International Court of Justice's verdict means going forward, we are joined virtually now by Professor Thuli Madonsela, Director of the Center for Social Justice at Stellenbosch University. Prof. Madonsela, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you, Sakina, and good morning to the viewers, and Happy New Year.
And to you, Professor. So over the weekend, we saw conflicting interpretations of the ICJ's order coming from different countries. Now, I would imagine, Prof, that you've had some time to at least just look at it and mull it over further. And as an international law expert, what is your understanding of that order and its wording and what it means going forward?
Thank you, Sakina. You don't need to be an international law expert to interpret the judgment the same as all similar judgments have been interpreted before. This judgment is not different from the Gambia versus Myanmar judgment, the Ukraine judgment, and even the ones that have gone before. A correct interpretation is a simple interpretation. South Africa said it believes that Israel is committing genocidal acts and allowing genocidal acts against Palestinians in Gaza in violation of the Genocide Convention. It then sought in this interim part of the legal process a provisional or an indication of provisional measures. And the whole idea of provisional measures is if you suspect that a crime is taking place or harm is taking place, you then preserve the situation. In other words, freeze the wrongful action. That's what South Africa asked for. It had asked for 9 things. It got 6. But the essence of that was that it asked that Palestinians be protected from being subjected to genocidal acts. And the key genocidal acts are killing of the members of the Palestinian community, causing bodily or mental harm to members of the group, C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life, operating to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. And the court found that these rights are plausible in the context of Gaza, Palestine, and that there was a real and imminent risk of irreparable harm being done to these rights. And Israel said to the court, no, it's doing everything to protect civilians in line with these requirements. And in paragraph 73, the court rejects Israel's assertion that it's doing what it's supposed to do. I'll just read the last sentence where the court says, while steps such as these are to be encouraged, they are insufficient to remove the risk that irreparable prejudice will be caused before the court issues its final decision in the case. And before the court issued or indicated the 5 provisional measures, it indicates in paragraph 86 that these are linked to the observations it has made above, which is all of the killings, all of the displacements, all of the denying of food, etc., etc. And therefore, anybody who is suggesting that this judgment allows Israel to continue to do what it's been doing is wrong and deliberately trying to mislead the public.
So to that point, Professor Madonsela, a lot has been made about the wording or lack of the phrase of a ceasefire in this particular ruling. So can we talk to that? Because the court was very clear in terms of what needed to be adhered to as per Article 2. So is it possible to have all of those conditions adhered to without a ceasefire?
It is possible to have all of those conditions adhered to without a ceasefire. What the court has ordered is that Israel stops killing or prevents the killing, the mass killing of Palestinians, the mass displacement of Palestinians, and must allow and enable humanitarian aid such as food, water, medicine, etc. And obviously, what this means is then Israel would have to stop shelling Gaza, will have to remove its armed forces from Gaza, will have to stop those armed forces from directly killing people even when they are waving white flags. And that can happen without a ceasefire. That would mean that Israel would have to go back to its side of the wall, if there is a wall in Gaza. And if it's being attacked by Hamas, or if it wants to look for Hamas, real Hamas, not the people it's killing and pretending to be looking for Hamas, it will then be able to do that. That's possible without a ceasefire, but it certainly will have to stop carpet bombing. It will have to remove its armed forces from civilian life in Gaza. It will have to restore people back to their homes. I'm not sure how, given the fact that the court noted that more than 85% of people have been displaced from their homes.
And then also, Professor Madonsela, the court called for the immediate and unconditional release of hostages that were taken by Hamas after the group attacked Israel on the 7th of October. So this one is also going to be interesting to see how Hamas reacts to this, and because at some point it was said that these hostages, in some instances, were no longer with Hamas but with other groupings.
I'm not sure how Hamas is going to assist in this regard. The only thing I can say is that it was very kind and compassionate of the court to include this matter. It must be noted, however, that this is not part of the provisional measures indicated by the court. This is a call by the court to Hamas to return the civilians. It's the right call. And I would include a call to Israel to return the abducted people from Gaza and all of the people who have just disappeared. Fortunately, with cameras these days being everywhere, there are photographs in the internet that are showing that some of the disappeared people have been abducted by Israel, IOM, and other forces.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because there's still a long way to go and a lot's still going to happen, Professor Madonsela. But the United Nations has now urged some of the countries that have indicated that they will be suspending their funding to reverse that decision of funding to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency because Israel has now come up with allegations that some of the agency's staff were actually directly involved in that Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October. How's this likely to impact the already dire situation in Palestine, a humanitarian situation that is catastrophic at this point, Professor?
The suspension of funding to UNRWA is going to have devastating consequences to the staff of UNRWA and particularly to the people of Gaza. We know already that more than 1.7 million of them are displaced, which means the majority of the people of Gaza are displaced. That is part of the judgment. Therefore, that leaves those majority of Gazans without food, water, electricity, medical assistance, etc. It is said that there's a possibility that there were UNRWA employees that were involved in the 7th. That is a serious allegation, and I don't want to prejudge it. We know that Israel has lied. We know that lying is a weapon of war, is considered a legitimate weapon of war, even though I don't think so. But I don't want to rush and say it is a lie. If it is true, it is said. However, we must note that they are talking about some reports saying 7, some reports saying 12. In an organization with 30,000 people all over the world and 13,000 people in Gaza, it is unfair to automatically attribute the acts of a few staff members of UNRWA to the whole organization, and more importantly, to punish the people of Gaza. Just lastly, Sakina, this is not only going to have a devastating impact on the people of Gaza, it's going to aid Israel to retake over Gaza. Because now to have a legitimate excuse to go in to say it's going there to provide humanitarian assistance. Imagine having to receive assistance from a group that has just wiped out your entire family, that has left you maimed, that has probably destroyed a business or anything you had, and now on a day-to-day basis, without a healing process, without a truth and reconciliation process, you have to go begging for food and other things to them. That's cruel.
And we're out of time, Prof, but is this, can this be seen as a direct, result of that ruling of the ICJ? Is this retaliation from those supporting Israel?
It does look like that the parties were lobbied to punish UNRWA because some of the observations, conclusive observations made by the court, are attributed to information it got from UNRWA.